They didn't call me, didn't argue, didn't even hint at it, just left me out. A single text from my sister Nora, buzzing in at 7:12 p.m. on a Tuesday. Dad's 70th is Saturday at Rossi's Italian Bistro. Family only, you know. Close family. Close family. The words hit like a quiet slap, the kind that stings longer than you expect. I'm Avery Quinn, the eldest, the one who's supposed to hold the family together. But there I was, 35 years old, staring at my phone in my Portland apartment, wondering when I stopped counting as family. I typed a response, deleted it, typed again. Was I meant to be left out? I hit send, my thumb hesitating over the button. Nora didn't reply. Instead, my brother Miles chimed in 2 hours later, casual as ever. Hey, just keeping it small, Avery. Hope you get it. Hope you get it. Like I was supposed to nod and accept being erased. I didn't cry, didn't scream. But something inside me shifted, heavy and sharp, like a door locking from the other side. I opened my laptop, booked a flight to Chicago, and sat in the silence of my decision. Not out of anger, not to prove a point, but because when your family decides you're not worth inviting, you don't beg, you show up, and I would. Not to fight, but to be seen. To remind them I wasn't a ghost, no matter how hard they tried to make me one. I'm Avery Quinn, 35, co-founder of Green Path Studio, a little design firm in Portland that's changing how cities think about sustainability. We craft urban solutions, green roofs, solar grids, parks that breathe life into concrete. It's not just work, it's a promise I made to myself to build something that matters. But back in Chicago, where I grew up, I'm just the daughter. Who left? The one who's too big for her boots, as my dad, Henry, likes to say. I was 22 when I packed a single suitcase, tucked a sketchbook under my arm, and boarded a one-way bus to Portland. No savings. Just a partial scholarship and a stubborn belief I could make it. My dad didn't look up from his newspaper when I said goodbye. My mom, Margaret, handed me a peanut butter sandwich wrapped in foil. No note, no hug. I told myself it was enough. For years, I lived in a cramped studio above a coffee shop, the kind that smelled like burnt espresso at 5 a.m. I waited tables, sketched designs on napkins, took night classes in urban planning. By 29, I co-founded Green Path with a professor and a city planner I met at a workshop. Our first project, a solar-powered community center, saved a small town $50,000 in energy costs. That's when the calls started. Mayors, nonprofits, even a feature and fast company. But back home, they thought I was drawing trees or something. When my sister Nora lost her job, her apartment on the line, I wired $10,000 that same night. No questions, no strings. She never thanked me, not a word. My mom sent a text. Nora's doing better, thanks. That was it. I sent books for Nora's kids, theater tickets for Mom's birthday. Polite replies, never connection. Once I tried to visit for Thanksgiving. Nora said the kids had the flu. Bad timing, Avery. I stopped asking. My dad, Henry, would shrug when people asked about, Nini, she's out west doing something with the environment, over my head. Over his head. Like my life was too much to understand. My family, Henry, Margaret, Nora, and my younger brother Miles, they built a world where I was a name they used when it suited them. But in Portland, I built a world where I was seen, heard, needed, and yet, that text from Nora, that family-only line, it cut deeper than I wanted to admit. Because no matter how far you go, you never stop wanting to belong. Leaving Chicago at 22 wasn't just a choice. It was survival. I remember standing at the bus station, my sketchbook tucked under my jacket to keep it dry from the drizzle. No one came to see me off. My dad, Henry, was at work, probably squinting at his ledger. My mom, Margaret, called to say, "Be safe." Her voice soft but distant, like she was already letting go. My sister Nora was too busy with her new job at the bank. My brother Miles, barely 15, texted me a thumbs up emoji. That was it. A thumbs up for a one-way ticket to a life I hadn't figured out yet. Portland was brutal at first. My apartment was a shoebox above a coffee shop, the kind where the smell of burnt beans woke you up at dawn. I waited tables, my hands sticky. With syrup, my nights spent hunched over urban design textbooks in a laundromat, the hum of dryers drowning out my doubts. I worked like every day was an audition for a life I wasn't sure I deserved. 3 years in, I was still broke, but I had ideas, big ones, about cities that could breathe, buildings that gave back to the earth. At 29, I co-founded Green Path Studio with a professor who believed in me and a city planner who'd seen too many parks turn into parking lots. Our first project, a solar-powered community hub, was a mess of code and hope. It broke twice before it worked, but when it did, it saved a small Oregon town enough energy to light their schools for a year. That's when the world started noticing. A mayor called, then a nonprofit, then a headline in a sustainability journal that made my heart skip. But back in Chicago, I was still Avery who does something with plants. My dad Henry would shrug when neighbors asked about me. She's out there saving trees or something. It's complicated. Complicated. Like my life was a puzzle he didn't care to solve. When Nora's bank job fell through, her rent overdue, I sent $10,000 without a second thought. I got a text from Mom. Nora's okay now. Nothing from Nora. Not even a nod. I kept trying, though. Sent picture books for Nora's kids, theater, tickets for Mom's birthday, even a scarf for Henry because he once mentioned liking wool. Mom would send a quick, "Thank you, dear." Nora might post a photo of her kids with the books, no tag, no mention. Henry never wore the scarf. Once, I planned to come home for Christmas, my suitcase half packed. Nora texted, "Kids are sick, maybe next time." I stopped packing. They didn't disown me. Not outright. It was quieter than that, like being erased one smudge at a time. The kind of silence that feels louder than words. But I kept building, rooftop gardens, solar grids, a life that felt like mine. And yet, every time I saw their names on my phone, I hoped for something more. A connection. A sign they saw me. Not the girl who left, but the woman I'd become. Monday mornings at Green Path Studio start early. Too early. By 6:30 a.m., I'm in our Portland office, sipping coffee that's more bitter than bold, running through our weekly stand-up. We're lean, always have been, just a handful of dreamers trying to make cities greener. That morning, as I headed to the elevator, our HR lead, Jenna, caught me. "Avery, your 11 a.m. onboarding has 4 new interns. One's from Chicago. Lila Hayes. Sharp kid. Background in environmental engineering." Lila Hayes. The name tugged at something, faint, like a half-remembered melody. I brushed it off. But then Jenna handed me the onboarding packet. I skimmed it. Lila Hayes, 25, recent grad, joined us for our urban greening project. Then it clicked. Lila, my brother Miles's new girlfriend. I'd seen her in his Instagram stories, laughing at a Cubs game, her hair tucked under a baseball cap. My family called her bright, grounded, a keeper. They didn't know she was interning for me. I didn't say anything to Lila during onboarding. She sat in the front row, pen poised, eyes wide, taking notes as I welcomed the group. "I'm Avery Quinn, co-founder of Green Path Studio. We're here to build cities that don't just survive, but thrive." Her gaze flickered when I said my name, but she didn't flinch. Not yet. I wondered if she even knew I was Miles's sister. Probably not. My family didn't talk about me much. That night, I opened Instagram. Nora's post stared back at me. A photo of Dad, Henry, grinning in his favorite flannel, a glass of wine in hand. The caption read, "Family is everything. Counting down. To Dad's 70th at Rossi's Italian Bistro this Saturday." 42 likes. Comments from cousins, neighbors, old church friends. "Can't wait. Henry looks so happy. Nora, you're the best for planning this." Not one mention of me. Not a single "Where's Avery?" I scrolled until my eyes burned. It wasn't forgetting. Forgetting is an accident. This was erasure. Intentional. Sharp. Like they'd decided I didn't belong in the frame. I closed the app, my chest tight, the kind of ache that doesn't let you sleep. I could have called Nora, demanded answers. But what would that change? They'd made their choice. So I made mine. I booked a flight to Chicago, not to crash their party, not to make a scene. I just needed them to see me. Not the headlines, not the awards. Me. The daughter they'd stopped inviting. I went to my desk, pulled out a small box I'd been saving. Inside was a restored photo album, pictures of Dad from his 20s, fishing trips, old Polaroids he thought were lost forever. He'd mentioned them once, years ago, over a burned pot roast. I'd remembered. I always remembered. I packed the album, pressed my gray blazer, and stared at my reflection. This wasn't about winning. It was about showing up, about refusing to be a ghost in their story. Because silence like theirs, it demands an answer. And I was ready to give one. Chicago smelled like home, even after all these years. Wet pavement, faint pizza grease, the hum of a city that never quite sleeps. I checked into a small hotel near the edge of town, just a bed and a lamp, the kind of quiet I didn't have to earn. I steamed my gray blazer, laid out the photo album on the nightstand, and let the weight of the moment settle. Rossi's Italian Bistro was exactly as I remembered from high school dinners. Red awnings, warm lights, the clink of wine glasses weaving through soft jazz. I arrived at 7:15, my heels steady on the tile. The hostess hesitated when I gave my name, her eyes flicking to her list. "Private party, back room," she said, pointing left. The laughter hit me first. Loud, carefree, like they'd never noticed I was missing. I stepped into the room and it was like walking into a photograph I didn't belong in. Dad, Henry, sat at the head of the table, his flannel shirt bright under the chandelier. Mom, Margaret, was beside him, her smile soft but tired. Nora sat with her kids, their faces smudged with marinara. And at the far end, near a window streaked with evening light, was Lila, Miles's girlfriend, her hands folded, watching. The room didn't freeze all at once. It slowed, like a song fading out. A cousin paused mid-sentence. An uncle's fork hovered. Then Dad's voice, sharp and familiar, cut through. "Well, look who decided to grace us with her presence," he said, his smirk half-cocked. "Portland's finest, huh?" No one laughed, but the air tightened, waiting for me to shrink. I didn't. I walked to Dad, slow, deliberate, and placed the photo album in front of him. "Happy 70th, Dad," I said, my voice steady. "I thought you'd want these." His fingers brushed the cover, uncertain, as he opened it. Pictures of him, young, fishing rod in hand, laughing on a pier with Grandpa. His eyes softened, just for a second before he leaned back. "Nice touch, Avery," he muttered. "Always gotta make an entrance." Mom's hand trembled as she reached for the album, her breath catching. Nora stared at her plate, her fork still. The kids squirmed, sensing the shift. I waited, the silence thick, heavy, like air before a storm. And then Lila stood. Not loud, not dramatic, just sure. She straightened her sweater, her gaze steady, and looked right at Dad. "She's not just Miles's sister," Lila said, her voice clear, cutting through the hum of the room. "She's Avery Quinn, my mentor at..." Green Path Studio. She's building cities that save the planet, work that's changing lives. You pushed her away, but she's still here, giving more than you ever gave her credit for. The room went still. Not silent. Silent is too soft a word. This was something denser, like the world held its breath. Dad blinked, his wine glass, frozen midair. Nora's face paled, her eyes darting to Lila, then to me. Mom gripped my hand, her fingers warm, anchoring. Lila kept going, her voice calm but unflinching. I applied to Green Path before I knew who she was. When I found out, I was proud. She's not just impressive, she's inspiring, and you don't see it. No one moved. Dad's smirk was gone, replaced by something I couldn't name. Nora's kids stopped fidgeting, their wide eyes on me. The cousins, the neighbors, the friends. They all looked, really looked, for the first time. Lila sat down, her hands steady, her words hanging like smoke. I didn't need to say anything. The truth was loud enough. For once, it wasn't mine to carry alone. I didn't stay long after Lila spoke. The room felt too heavy, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something I couldn't give. I squeezed Mom's hand, gave Dad a nod, and walked out, my heels clicking on the tile. Not loud, but enough to echo. No one called after me, no one chased me down. And that was okay. I hadn't come to be welcomed back. I'd come to be seen, to leave a truth they couldn't ignore. That night, in my hotel room, I didn't cry. I ordered a plate of gnocchi from room service, the kind Mom used to make, soft and warm, with too much butter. I opened my laptop, checked Green Path's latest project, a rooftop garden for a Seattle school. The numbers were good, solid, the kind of steady that felt like home. At 10:03 p.m., the hotel phone rang. The clerk's voice was soft. "A woman's here for you, Ms. Quinn. Says she's your mom." Margaret stood in the doorway, holding a Tupperware container wrapped in a checkered dish towel. Biscotti. Her biscotti, the one she baked when I was a kid, with uneven edges and too much sugar, the kind that crumbled in your hands. She hesitated, like she wasn't sure she was allowed in. I let her. She looked around my room, her eyes lingering on the neat stack of design sketches on the desk. "You always liked things organized," she said, almost a whisper. I smiled. "And you always liked sugar." We both laughed, small, careful, like we were testing the air. We didn't talk about the party. Not at first. Instead, we talked about the photos I'd given Dad, his fishing trips, his old Mustang, moments he thought were lost. She asked about Green Path, about the gardens, the solar panels. Her questions weren't just polite. They were real, like she was seeing me for the first time. Her voice softened, cracked. "We didn't know how much you were carrying, Avery. All these years, we thought keeping you small made you easier to hold on to. That was our mistake. I didn't rush to forgive her, but I didn't push her away either. I said, 'No one asked.' She nodded, not to argue, but to understand. She asked if she could visit Portland. I said yes. 4 days later, my phone lit up with Nora's name. I let it ring twice before answering. She didn't bother with small talk. "Lila told me everything," she said. "Not just what she said at the party, but how she sees you. How you lead. How you're steady." Her voice caught, like she was unraveling something. "I always thought you left us behind, like you were too good for us. But maybe I was jealous. You kept going and I stayed still." I let her words sit, let the silence do its work. "You're not small, Nora," I said. "You're just becoming." She exhaled, like she'd been holding that breath for years. She said Mom wanted to visit, then added softer, "Maybe I do too." I told her they were both welcome. When I got back to Portland, an envelope was waiting at my hotel's front desk. No return address, just my name in Dad's sharp, careful handwriting. Inside, a single sheet of paper. You turned out different than I thought, he wrote. Stronger, maybe. I didn't see it then. I'm trying to now. He'd attached a photo of me at 10, sketching a cityscape with crayons, a messy skyline of hope. On the back, he'd written, "You always saw further than me." That spring, I bought a small apartment overlooking the Willamette River. Sunlight spilled through the windows and the air smelled like cedar and rain. My team surprised me with a gift, a framed print, bold green letters on canvas. Design a world they can't ignore. Tucked beside it was a sticky note, Lila's handwriting neat and sure. She's my mentor. I didn't ask who kept it. I just knew it mattered. 5 years later, we celebrated Dad's 75th on my balcony, string lights swaying in the breeze. Nora brought a lemon cake, lopsided but hers. Lila made a video of Greenpath's projects, gardens blooming, cities breathing. Dad sat quietly, watching, then handed me an old sketch I'd drawn as a kid, a park with winding paths. "You always knew," he said, his voice low, not quite an apology, but close enough. We stood there, not fully family, not fully strangers, just people learning to see each other. I didn't come back to be forgiven. I came back so they'd know I never left. Have you ever returned, not for forgiveness, but to prove you were always there? Leave one word below. I'll understand. Because here's the truth. Family can break your heart, but you can build a world where your worth shines through. And sometimes, they learn to see it too.